The maintenance bay of Station Kepler 7 hummed with the usual sounds of machinery and distant conversations. Tom Baker wiped the grease from his hands onto his already dirty work pants as he finished checking the pressure readings on the ventilation system. The diagnostic scanner beeped twice, showing everything was working fine. He grabbed his toolbox and headed toward the exit, ready to move on to his next job. Tom had been working as a technician on the station for nearly 8 months now. It was good work, steady and simple. He fixed things when they broke, ran routine checks on equipment, and stayed out of everyone's way. The station was huge, home to hundreds of different species from across the galaxy, all training together for something called the United Defense Force. Tom did not care much about the military side of things. He just kept the systems running. As he walked through the corridor connecting the maintenance section to the main training areas, Tom could hear the sharp commands being shouted in the large gym ahead. He usually avoided that place during training hours. Too crowded, too much noise. But today his route took him right past the entrance, and he needed to check a power junction on the far wall. The training hall was massive, with high ceilings and enough space for several different groups to practice at once. Near the center, Tom saw a cluster of recruits gathered around someone tall and insectoid. That would be Crix, one of the Vraxian instructors. The Vraxians were impressive to look at, with their gleaming black exoskeletons and multiple compound eyes that seemed to see everything at once. They moved with a precision that made them natural fighters, or so Tom had heard. Crix was holding up a combat knife, the kind used in close quarters training. The blade caught the light as he turned it slowly, showing the recruits the proper grip and balance points. His voice clicked and buzzed in the universal translator everyone wore, explaining the importance of control and timing. Tom kept to the edge of the room, staying near the wall as he made his way toward the junction box. He was almost there when he heard a loud metallic clang from somewhere overhead. One of the anti-grav equipment racks had malfunctioned, he realized. The whole frame was shaking. The vibration traveled down through the support beams. In the training area, nobody seemed to notice at first. Crix was still talking, still holding the knife up for display. Then the shaking intensified. The blade slipped from his grip, tumbling through the air in a wild spin. It happened fast. The knife flew in an arc, heading straight toward a group of observers standing about 20 feet away. Some were other instructors, others were administration staff. They all froze, their various alien faces showing shock but their bodies not moving quickly enough to react. Tom was walking past at that exact moment, his toolbox in his left hand, his mind already thinking about which connector he would need for the junction box. He saw the flash of metal spinning through the air in his peripheral vision. Without thinking, without even turning his head fully, his right hand shot out and closed around the handle of the knife. The blade stopped spinning. Tom held it loosely, the weight familiar in his palm. He blinked, looked down at what he was holding, then glanced up at the shocked faces staring at him. The entire training hall had gone completely silent. Crix stood frozen, his multiple eyes fixed on Tom. The Vraxian's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of deep confusion. Around the room, dozens of alien species had stopped whatever they were doing to stare at the human technician standing there with a combat knife in his hand. Tom looked at the knife, then at Crix, then back at the knife. He walked over to the instructor and held it out handle first. "I think you dropped this," he said quietly. Crix did not take it immediately. His eyes were moving, scanning Tom's face and hand, trying to process what had just happened. Finally, he reached out with one of his forearms and accepted the blade. "How?" he clicked, his translator turning the sound into words. "How did you do that?" Tom shrugged. "Do what?" "I just caught it." "Just caught it?" Crix repeated slowly. His voice had an edge to it now, something that might have been disbelief or maybe suspicion. That blade was spinning at high velocity. The trajectory was unpredictable. Even I could not have intercepted it, and my reaction time is 0.03 seconds. Around them, other aliens were murmuring now, speaking in their own languages. Tom caught words through his translator like impossible and human and reflex. "I don't know," Tom said honestly. "I saw it falling. I caught it. That's all." He was starting to feel uncomfortable with all the attention. This was exactly the kind of situation he normally avoided. A Corvian officer approached from across the room. Tom recognized him as Commander Scholl, one of the station's senior tactical officers. The reptilian alien scales were a deep green, and his yellow eyes were fixed intently on Tom. "Name and position," he said in a voice that expected immediate answers. "Tom Baker, sir. Maintenance Technician, Level 2. You are assigned to this station?" "Yes, sir. 8 months now." Commander Scholl turned to look at Crix. "You are certain about the blade's velocity and trajectory?" "Absolutely certain, Commander," Crix replied. I have been training recruits for 6 cycles. I know what is possible and what is not. What this human just did should not be possible. Tom wanted to point out that he had clearly just done it, so it must be possible, but he kept quiet. Arguing with officers was never a good idea. I want the security footage from this incident, Shul said to someone behind him. All angles. And I want a full report on my desk within the hour. He turned back to Tom. You will remain available for questioning. I have 3 more junction boxes to check today, Tom said. Can I finish my work first? Shul's eyes narrowed slightly, but he nodded. Complete your assigned tasks. Report to my office at 1800 hours. Tom nodded, picked up his toolbox and headed toward the junction box he had been aiming for in the first place. Behind him, the murmuring grew louder. He could feel dozens of eyes watching his back as he walked. At the junction box, Tom opened his toolbox and pulled out his scanner. His hands were steady as he ran the diagnostic. Everything checked out fine, just like he expected. He logged the results on his datapad and closed the panel. As he turned to leave, he noticed that Crix was still standing in the same spot, still holding the knife, still staring in Tom's direction. The Vraxian's compound eyes reflected the overhead lights in strange patterns. Tom gave a small nod and headed for the exit. He had 4 more hours of work to finish before that meeting with Commander Shul, and he wanted to get it all done. Whatever this was about, he had a feeling his quiet life on the station was about to get a lot more complicated. Commander Shul watched the security footage for the 7th time. His office was dark except for the glow of the holographic display floating in front of his desk. The recording showed the training hall from multiple angles, all synced to the exact same moment. There was the knife, tumbling through the air after the equipment malfunction. Frame by frame, Shul could see it spinning, the blade catching the light with each rotation. Then came the human walking along the wall with his toolbox. The human's head turned slightly, just a fraction. His hand moved out, smooth and unhurried. The fingers closed around the handle at the precise moment needed. Shul replayed it again, this time at 1/4 speed. What bothered him most was how casual it looked. The human had not lunged or grabbed desperately. He had simply reached out as if picking fruit from a tree. Computer, analyze human subject's reaction time from visual detection to hand contact. The computer beeped. 0.18 seconds. Shul's scaled fingers drummed on his desk. 0.18 seconds was fast for a human, but not impossibly so. That was not what made this strange. He had seen the recordings from dozens of species. They all showed the same pattern when reacting to unexpected events. First came the recognition of threat, then the decision to act, then the physical response. 3 distinct phases, visible even in the fastest species. But this human showed something different. The hand was already moving before the eyes fully focused on the knife. It made no sense. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Enter, Shul commanded. Crix walked in, followed by another figure Shul did not recognize immediately. She was tall and thin, her body composed of what looked like clear crystal formations that glowed faintly from within. A Matharian scientist, judging by her appearance. Commander, Crix clicked respectfully. This is Dr. Prahl. She specializes in cognitive neurology across multiple species. I requested her presence after reviewing my own combat recorder data. Dr. Prahl moved forward, her crystalline body making soft chiming sounds with each step. Commander Shul, I have examined the footage you shared with the science division. The results are fascinating. Her voice came through the translator with an odd musical quality. Explain, Shul said simply. Prahl gestured, and a new hologram appeared beside the security footage. It showed a diagram of what looked like a brain, though not one Shul recognized. This is human neural structure. What we are seeing in your footage is not exceptional reaction speed. It is something we call predictive processing. Predictive processing, Shul repeated. The term meant nothing to him. Most species, including your own commander, operate on reactive processing. You see an event, your brain interprets it, then you respond. Even the fastest species follow this pattern. They simply complete the steps more quickly. Prahl's glow brightened as she spoke, a sign of excitement in her kind. Humans are different. Their brains constantly run prediction models of their environment. They are not reacting to what they see. They are reacting to what they anticipate will happen next. Crix clicked his mandibles. That is impossible. How can anyone react to something before it occurs? They are not reacting before it occurs, Prahl corrected. They are reacting to their prediction of what will occur, based on patterns they recognize. Watch the footage again, but focus on the moment before the human catches the blade. Shul played it once more. This time he watched the human's face instead of the hand. The eyes flickered toward the equipment rack just as it began to shake. Then they moved to where Crix was holding the knife. The human's body shifted slightly, weight moving to the balls of his feet. All of this happened before the knife even left Crix's grip. He knew, Shul said quietly. He knew the blade would fall before it fell. Not consciously, Prahl explained. His brain recognized the pattern. Vibration plus unstable grip equals dropped object. It calculated the most likely trajectory based on previous experience with falling items. By the time the knife was actually in the air, his motor systems were already executing the catch. Shul leaned back in his chair. Are all humans capable of this? To varying degrees, yes. It appears to be a fundamental aspect of their cognition. They train it from early childhood through activities they call games and sports. Catching balls, dodging obstacles, anticipating opponent moves and competitive play. What they consider entertainment is actually sophisticated neural training. Crix had been silent, but now he spoke. If this is true, it has serious implications for combat. In battle, being able to predict an opponent's strike before it fully develops would be an overwhelming advantage. Indeed, Prahl agreed. I have requested permission to study the human population on this station more thoroughly. We need to understand the limits and variations of this ability. A communication alert beeped on Shul's desk. He tapped the console. Yes. Commander, Technician Baker is here for his 1800 hours appointment. Shul glanced at the chronometer. Exactly on time. He looked at Crix and Prahl. Stay. I want you both present for this conversation. Send him in. The door opened and Tom Baker entered, still wearing his work uniform with grease stains on the knees. He looked tired, like someone who had just finished a long shift. His eyes took in the three aliens waiting for him, but his expression did not change much. Sit, Shul indicated the chair across from his desk. Tom sat down, setting his tool bag on the floor beside him. Am I in trouble, sir? No, Shul said. We simply have questions about today's incident. Tell me, Mr. Baker, where did you learn to catch objects with such precision? Tom looked confused by the question. I don't know. I just always could, I guess. When I was a kid in London, I worked in the market district. Lots of people throwing things around, boxes falling off carts, that kind of stuff. You learn to grab things before they hit the ground or break. And you never received formal training in combat or athletics? No, sir. I mean, I played football with friends when I was younger. Regular stuff. Nothing special. Prahl leaned forward, her crystalline form chiming softly. When you caught the knife today, were you thinking about the mathematics of its trajectory? The velocity and angle? Tom actually laughed at that. No, ma'am. I just saw it falling and knew where it would be. I didn't think about it at all, really. My hand just moved. Fascinating, Prahl whispered. Unconscious predictive modeling executed in real time. Tom looked between the three of them. I'm sorry, but I don't understand what the big deal is. Don't all of you catch things when they fall? We react to things that have already fallen, Crix said. His voice was not hostile now, but there was something in it. Maybe respect, maybe concern. You react to things that are in the process of falling. There is a difference. Shul pulled up another file on his display. Mr. Baker, how many other humans are currently stationed on Kepler 7? I'm not sure exactly. Maybe 40 or 50. We're spread across different departments. And in your experience, do other humans demonstrate similar abilities to yours? Tom shrugged. I never really thought about it. I guess so. My friend Sarah, she works in the cargo bay. She's always grabbing tools before they fall off shelves. Drives the Krell workers crazy because they can never figure out how she knows. Shul and Prahl exchanged looks. The Krell had excellent vision and good reflexes, but they operated on reactive processing like most species. Mr. Baker, Shul said carefully, I am going to ask you to participate in some tests over the next few days. Dr. Prahl and her team want to better understand human cognitive abilities. You will be compensated for your time, and it will not interfere with your regular duties. Tom looked uncertain. What kind of tests? Simple exercises. Catching objects, navigating obstacles, pattern recognition tasks. Nothing dangerous or invasive. Do I have a choice? Shul considered the question. Technically he could order it, but that seemed unwise. Yes. However, I would consider it a personal favor. The information could be valuable for the defense force. Tom was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. All right. But I still need to finish my regular work. The station doesn't fix itself. Agreed. We will work around your schedule. Shul stood, indicating the meeting was over. You are dismissed. Someone from Dr. Prahl's team will contact you tomorrow with details. Tom picked up his tool bag and left. After the door closed, the three aliens sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, Crick spoke. If all humans possess this ability and if it can be trained and improved, then we have been seriously underestimating their combat potential. More than that, Prahl said, her glow pulsing with thought. We may need to completely reconsider how we train mixed species units. Human predictive processing could be integrated into tactical planning in ways we have never explored. Shul looked at the frozen image of Tom Baker catching the knife, his hand wrapped around the handle with perfect casual confidence. Contact the other human personnel on this station. I want them all tested. Quietly for now. We need to understand what we are dealing with before this information spreads further. As Prahl and Crix left to begin their work, Shul remained alone in his office, staring at the footage. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a thought formed that he could not quite shake. If humans could predict physical movements this well, what else might they be able to anticipate? The testing facility was located in one of the quieter sections of Station Kepler 7, away from the main training areas. Tom arrived early, still not entirely sure what he had agreed to. The room was large and empty except for some equipment stacked against the walls and Dr. Prahl waiting near the entrance with her datapad. "Good morning, Mr. Baker," she chimed. "Thank you for coming. We will start with something simple today." Simple turned out to be an understatement. Dr. Prahl had arranged a series of balls on a launching mechanism. They would fire at random intervals from different angles, and Tom was supposed to catch as many as he could. Easy enough. The first ball launched. Tom caught it without trouble. Then 2 came at once from opposite sides. He got both. Then 3, then 4. His hands moved quickly, grabbing each ball out of the air and tossing them into a collection bin beside him. Dr. Prahl increased the speed. The balls came faster now, harder to track. But Tom found that if he did not think too hard about it, his body seemed to know where to be. He would start moving toward a spot before the ball even reached it, his hand arriving at the exact moment needed. After 20 minutes, Prahl stopped the test. "Excellent. Now we try something different." She led him to another area where a Corvian technician was setting up what looked like a maze made of light barriers. "Walk through without touching any of the beams. They will move as you navigate." Tom stepped into the maze. The light barriers shifted and rotated, creating new obstacles as he moved. He found himself slipping through gaps that were closing, ducking under beams that swung toward him, all without really planning his movements. His body just seemed to know the path. "Remarkable," Prahl said, watching her instruments. "Your brain is processing the movement patterns of the barriers and calculating safe paths several steps ahead. You are not reacting to where the barriers are, but where they will be." Tom emerged from the other side slightly out of breath. "It's kind of like playing that game we had as kids. Red light, green light. You had to freeze when someone turned around, but you also had to predict when they would turn so you could stop in time." Prahl's glow brightened with interest. "Tell me more about these childhood games." Before Tom could answer, the door to the facility opened. A man in military uniform walked in, older than Tom by maybe 15 years, with short gray hair and the kind of posture that came from decades of discipline. Commander Shul followed behind him. "Dr. Prahl, this is Jack Miller," Shul announced. "He arrived on the station this morning. Former Special Forces, recently retired. I thought his participation might provide useful comparative data." Jack nodded to everyone. "Ma'am." Tom. He had a rough voice, the kind that came from years of shouting orders. "Commander Shul told me about your little knife catch. Impressive." "It wasn't that impressive," Tom said. "I just caught it." "That's what makes it impressive," Jack replied with a slight smile. "You don't even realize what you did." Dr. Prahl gestured to the testing area. "Mr. Miller, would you be willing to attempt the same exercises we just ran with Mr. Baker?" "Sure. Why not?" Jack stepped up to the ball launcher. Prahl reset it to the beginning difficulty. The first ball came out and Jack caught it smoothly. Then 2 balls, then 3. But where Tom had caught them with quick grabs, Jack seemed to flow between them. His movements were economical, wasting no energy. He positioned himself so that each catch led naturally to the next. When the speed increased, Jack did not just catch the balls. He seemed to dance around them, his body moving in patterns that let him handle even more projectiles than Tom had managed. After the test ended, he was not even breathing hard. "Military training?" Prahl asked. "Some," Jack admitted. "But mostly just years of practice. When you're in combat situations, you learn to read patterns fast or you don't come home. Enemy movements, weapon trajectories, terrain changes. It all becomes automatic after a while. Prahl had Jack run through the light maze next. He moved through it even faster than Tom, his body flowing around obstacles like water. But what caught everyone's attention was how he seemed to create his own rhythm, using the barrier movements to his advantage rather than just avoiding them. "How are you doing that?" Tom asked when Jack finished. "Pattern recognition," Jack said. "The barriers move in cycles. Once you see the pattern, you can use it. Move with the rhythm instead of against it." He looked at Tom. "You probably do the same thing without realizing it." "Most humans do." Crix had entered during Jack's test, watching silently from the side. Now he stepped forward. "I would like to propose a different test. Combat simulation. Both of you against trained opponents." "I'm not a soldier," Tom said quickly. "I fix pipes and electrical systems." "Humor me," Crix clicked. "You will use training weapons. No one will be harmed. I simply want to see how you respond to direct confrontation." The combat simulation area was smaller, padded, with markers on the floor indicating boundaries. Crix handed them each a practice blade, made of soft material that would register hits without causing injury. 2 Vraxian recruits entered, both younger than Crix but still formidable looking with their dark exoskeletons and multiple limbs. "Simple rules," Crix explained. "Land a hit without being hit yourself. Begin when ready." Tom went first because Jack insisted. He stepped into the circle, holding the practice blade awkwardly. The Vraxian recruit moved fast, incredibly fast. Tom found himself backing up, barely avoiding the strikes coming at him. But something strange happened. After a few seconds he started to notice a pattern. The recruit favored his right side. There was a slight pause before each overhead strike. Tom's body moved before his mind caught up. He saw the recruit's arm begin to rise and he was already stepping inside the reach, his practice blade tapping the Vraxian's torso before the overhead strike could land. Crix's mandibles clicked rapidly. Again. The second Vraxian was faster, more aggressive. Tom lost the first round, taking a hit to his shoulder. But the second round he lasted longer. The third round he managed to draw. By the fourth round he was starting to predict the attack combinations. Then it was Jack's turn. The veteran stepped into the circle and everything changed. He did not just predict the attacks. He controlled the entire flow of the fight. The Vraxian would start a combination and Jack would be in a position that made the attack impossible to complete. He would feint one direction and move another, always staying just ahead of his opponent's reactions. When Jack landed his hit, it looked almost gentle. A tap to the recruit's side that could have been a killing blow if the blade were real. Crix was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to Commander Scholl. "We need to speak privately. Now." They moved to the corner of the room. Tom could not hear what they were saying, but he could see Crix's agitated movements and Scholl's serious expression. Dr. Prahl joined them, her glow pulsing rapidly. Jack came over to stand beside Tom. "They're realizing something they should have figured out a long time ago." "What's that?" "That human kids don't just play games for fun. Tag teaches pursuit and evasion. Hide and seek teaches spatial awareness and prediction. Sports teach reading opponents and anticipating plays. Every culture has some version of these games. We've been training for combat since we could walk, we just called it playing." Tom thought about his childhood in London. The games in the streets, dodging through crowds, catching things his friends threw. Jack was right. It had all been training just disguised as fun. Dr. Prahl returned, her crystalline form chiming with excitement and what might have been concern. "Gentlemen, I need to run more comprehensive tests. Commander Scholl has authorized a full study of human cognitive and combat capabilities. We will need to test other humans on the station as well." "Why?" Tom asked. "What's the big deal about catching things and dodging in a fight?" Crix answered, his voice grave. "Because, Mr. Baker, most species train their soldiers for years to develop the skills you demonstrate naturally. The Vraxian Military Academy is 4 cycles long. Our warriors train every day to achieve the reaction patterns I just witnessed from you, a civilian technician. And if all humans have this baseline capability," Scholl added, "then human soldiers with actual combat training represent a tactical advantage we have severely underestimated." Jack crossed his arms. "We're not better fighters than other species. We're just wired different. We see patterns where others see chaos. That difference," Crix said quietly, "could change the balance of power in the entire defense force. And that is what concerns us." The room fell silent. Tom looked at the practice blade still in his hand. He had just wanted to fix equipment and live quietly on the station. Now he was apparently part of something much bigger, something that was making experienced military officers nervous. Dr. Prahl broke the silence. We continue testing tomorrow. For now, both of you are dismissed. But please do not discuss these results with other station personnel. Not yet. As Tom and Jack left the facility together, the older man put a hand on Tom's shoulder. Welcome to the interesting life, kid. It's not as fun as the quiet one, but at least it's never boring. Tom sighed. He had a feeling Jack was absolutely right. The announcement had spread through Station Kepler 7 like wildfire. In 3 days, there would be an exhibition match between species champions. The main event would feature Crix, the undefeated Vraxian combat instructor, against Tom Baker, a human maintenance technician who had somehow impressed the military brass. Tom thought the whole thing was ridiculous. He had said so multiple times to anyone who would listen, including Commander Schill, who simply replied that the Galactic Council representatives wanted a demonstration. What they were demonstrating exactly Schill did not say, but the order was clear. Tom would fight. The days leading up to the match were strange. Tom continued his normal work, fixing broken systems and running diagnostics, but now other station personnel stared at him in the corridors. Some looked curious, others skeptical. A few Vraxian soldiers watched him with what might have been hostility, though it was hard to tell with their compound eyes. Jack Miller found Tom in the maintenance bay 2 days before the match. The veteran was carrying training pads and wearing a grin. "Come on, kid. We're going to prepare you." "I don't need preparation," Tom said, not looking up from the control panel he was rewiring. "It's just a demonstration. I'll go in, do whatever they want, and get back to work." "You'll go in and get destroyed if you think like that," Jack said flatly. "Crix has been training warriors for decades. You caught a knife and won some practice rounds. That doesn't make you a fighter." Tom set down his tools. "Then why am I doing this?" "Because they need to see what human prediction looks like against a real opponent. Not a recruit, not a simulation. A champion." Jack tossed him the training pads. "Now come on. I'm going to teach you the only lesson that matters." They found an empty cargo bay and cleared some space. Jack stood across from Tom, relaxed and easy. "Here's what you need to understand. Crix is faster than you, stronger than you, more experienced than you. In a straight fight, he wins every time." "Very encouraging," Tom muttered. "But," Jack continued, "he fights like every other species. He reacts to what he sees. You need to fight like a human. Make him react to what you want him to see." For the next 2 hours, Jack walked Tom through scenarios. Not complex techniques or fancy moves, just simple concepts. How to create false patterns. How to make an opponent expect one thing and deliver another. How to stay 2 steps ahead in the mental game. "Stop thinking about the fight as action and reaction," Jack said. "Think of it as a conversation. You say something with your movement, he responds, you're already planning your next 3 sentences." The night before the match, Tom barely slept. He kept replaying Jack's lessons in his mind, mixing them with memories of street games in London, of dodging through market crowds, of catching falling objects without thinking. The exhibition was held in the main training hall, the same place where Tom had caught the knife. But now the space was transformed. Seating had been arranged in a circle around a marked combat area. The stands filled quickly with personnel from dozens of different species, all curious to see what would happen. Tom arrived in the basic sparring gear they had given him, simple padded clothing and light gloves. Crix was already there, his black exoskeleton gleaming under the lights. The Vraxian wore traditional combat wraps and carried himself with absolute confidence. Commander Schill stood at the center of the ring. "This is a demonstration match. Training weapons only. First to 3 confirmed hits wins. Fight will be stopped if either participant is injured." He looked at both fighters. "This is about skill, not pride." "Understood." Both nodded. Tom's heart was pounding. He had never been in a real fight before, never trained for this. What was he doing here? Then he saw Jack in the crowd, giving him a small nod. The veteran's expression was calm, confident. Tom took a deep breath and stepped into the ring. The signal sounded. Crix moved immediately, closing the distance with frightening speed. His first strike came high, a testing blow to see how Tom would react. Tom stepped back, avoiding it easily. The second strike came low, then a third from the side. Tom kept moving, staying just out of reach. He was not trying to counter yet, just watching. Crix had a rhythm, a pattern to how he combined attacks. I low side. Reset. I low side. The Vraxian was incredibly fast, but he was also predictable. Tom's body started to relax. This was just pattern recognition. Like catching balls or navigating the light maze. He did not need to be faster than Crix. He just needed to know where Crix would be. The next combination started. High strike coming. Tom was already moving, not away but forward and to the side, slipping past Crix's guard. He tapped the Vraxian's ribs with his practice blade. Point. Baker. Shul's voice echoed in the sudden silence. Crix's mandibles clicked rapidly. He reset his stance, more careful now. The next exchange was longer. Crix varied his patterns, trying to catch Tom off guard. But Tom found that the more he stopped thinking and just let his body move, the easier it became. He could see the slight shift in Crix's weight before a strike, the angle of his arm that telegraphed direction. Tom scored the second point by simply not being where Crix expected. He had started to move left, then shifted right at the last instant, his blade finding Crix's shoulder. Point. Baker. The crowd was murmuring now. This was not supposed to happen. Crix was the champion, the master instructor. The human was just a technician. But Crix was not frustrated. Instead, his posture changed. He was adapting, Tom realized. The Vraxian was learning. The third exchange was different. Crix started using feints, trying to create false patterns. It worked. Tom committed to a dodge that was not needed and took a hit to his side. Point. Crix. Now it was 2-1. Tom circled, breathing hard. Crix was faster and now he was being unpredictable. This was the real test. Could Tom predict something that was designed to be unpredictable? Jack's words came back to him. Make the opponent react to what you want them to see. Tom started moving differently. He left openings, obvious ones. He made his stance loose, almost careless. He was offering targets. Crix took the bait. He lunged for what looked like an easy hit. But Tom had known he would. The opening was too good to ignore. Tom was already pivoting, his practice blade coming up to catch Crix's extended arm, then continuing the motion to tap the Vraxian's chest. Point. Baker. 2-2. The crowd was completely silent now. Even the translator system seemed to have gone quiet. The final exchange felt like it lasted forever. Both fighters were cautious, testing, probing. Crix had abandoned his patterns entirely now, fighting with pure reactive skill. Tom could not predict specific moves anymore, but he could predict something else. He could predict Crix's intent. The Vraxian wanted to end this quickly. He would commit to a strong attack, something decisive. Tom just had to wait for it and be ready. It came as a complex combination, 3 strikes in rapid succession leading to a fourth that had real power behind it. Tom avoided the first 3 by the smallest margins, letting Crix think he was overwhelming the human's defenses. The fourth strike came with all of Crix's speed and strength. Tom was not there. He had already moved, reading the intention behind the attack. His practice blade found the small gap under Crix's arm where the combat wraps did not fully protect. Point. Match. Baker wins. The hall erupted in noise. Some species were cheering, others making sounds of disbelief. Tom stood there, breathing hard, not quite believing what had just happened. Crix lowered his arms and approached. For a moment, Tom thought the Vraxian might be angry. But then Crix extended one of his 4 hands in the human gesture of respect he had learned. You did not defeat me with speed or strength, Crix said, his translator turning his clicks into words. You defeated me with knowledge. You knew what I would do before I did it. I just watched the patterns, Tom said. And when there weren't patterns, I watched your intent. Intent? Crix repeated. Yes, that is the word. You read my intent. He turned to face the crowd, his voice rising. This is what I have been trying to explain to the council. Humans do not react to the present. They react to the future they see coming. Commander Shul stepped forward. Thank you both. This demonstration has been enlightening. He looked directly at Tom. Mr. Baker, the Galactic Council has requested your presence at a formal briefing tomorrow. They have questions about human combat integration into the defense force. Tom wanted to protest, to say he just wanted to go back to fixing equipment, but the words died in his throat. The way everyone was looking at him now, he knew that part of his life was over. The quiet technician who just wanted to do his work was gone. Now he was something else, something the galaxy wanted to understand. Jack pushed through the crowd and clapped Tom on the shoulder. Told you it wouldn't be boring? Tom managed a tired smile. I should have stayed in London. But even as he said it, he felt something stirring inside him. Pride maybe. Or purpose. He had just shown an entire station full of species something they had never seen before. Not human strength or human speed, but human thinking. The ability to see what was coming and be ready for it. As the crowd dispersed, Tom noticed groups of humans gathering together, talking excitedly. They had been watching too, seeing one of their own demonstrate something they all possessed but never thought was special. Tomorrow Tom knew everything would change. For him and possibly for every human in the defense force. Tom sat in Commander Schill's office, staring at the formal document on the desk between them. The words training coordinator and tactical integration specialist seemed to blur together. It had been 2 days since the exhibition match, and Tom had spent most of that time in meetings with people whose ranks he could barely keep track of. "I appreciate the offer, Commander," Tom said carefully. "But I'm a technician. I fix things. I don't teach soldiers how to fight." Schill's yellow eyes studied him with that reptilian patience. "You would not be teaching them to fight. You would be teaching them to think. There is a difference. I wouldn't even know where to start. We would provide support. Jack Miller has already agreed to assist. Dr. Prahl would help design the curriculum. You would simply need to demonstrate human predictive capabilities and help us understand how to integrate them into our tactical doctrine." Tom opened his mouth to refuse again when the station alarm blared. Red emergency lights began flashing along the walls. Schill was on his feet immediately, activating his communication panel. "Report," he commanded. A panicked voice came through, broken by static. "Cooling system failure in reactor section 7. We have a cascade starting. Pressure is building in the auxiliary lines." Tom's blood went cold. Reactor section 7 was adjacent to the main habitation ring. If those pressure lines blew, the entire section would be compromised. Hundreds of people lived and worked in that area. "Begin evacuation procedures," Schill ordered. "I want engineering teams on it now." "Sir, the engineering teams are trying, but the pressure is building too fast. We have maybe 10 minutes before the lines rupture." Tom was already moving toward the door. "I know that system. I worked on it last month." Schill grabbed his communicator. "Baker is coming. Clear him through all checkpoints." He looked at Tom. "Go." Tom ran. The corridors were filling with people moving toward evacuation points, a mix of species all heading away from reactor section 7. Tom pushed through them, going the opposite direction. His mind was already working through the problem. The cooling system had 3 auxiliary pressure lines. If they were cascading, it meant the primary release valve had failed. The pressure would be redirecting through backups that were never designed to handle that load. He reached the reactor section access point where 2 Krell engineers were arguing with a Metherian technician. They all looked up when Tom arrived. "The valve control is jammed," the Metherian said, his crystalline body pulsing with stress. "We cannot release the pressure manually." "Show me," Tom said. They led him through the access corridor to the main control room. Tom could hear the pipes groaning even from here, a deep metallic sound that spoke of dangerous stress levels. The control panel showed pressure readings climbing into the red zone across all 3 auxiliary lines. Tom studied the schematic. The primary valve was indeed jammed, probably seized from the heat. But there was another option, a maintenance bypass that could reroute the pressure to the emergency venting system. The problem was timing. He would need to open 3 different bypass valves in a specific sequence, or the pressure would just redirect to whichever line was weakest. "I need manual access to bypass stations Alpha, Beta, and Gamma," Tom said. "That requires 3 people in 3 different locations," one of the Krell engineers said. "And the timing must be exact. Within 0.5 seconds of each other." "I know." Tom grabbed a communicator. "This is Baker. I need 2 more people in reactor section 7 right now. People who can follow instructions exactly." Jack Miller's voice came back almost immediately. "Already on my way with Sarah Chin from Cargo. She's human, she'll understand what you need." Tom had never met Sarah, but if Jack trusted her, that was good enough. He quickly explained the plan while they waited. They had maybe 6 minutes left. Jack and Sarah arrived running. Sarah was younger than Tom, maybe mid-20s, with oil stains on her work clothes and an expression of fierce determination. "What do you need?" Tom pulled up the schematic and showed them the 3 bypass stations. "We need to open all 3 valves simultaneously. The timing has to be perfect. Even a second of delay and the pressure will blow through the weakest line before the venting system can handle it." "No pressure," Jack said with dark humor. Tom assigned positions. Jack would take Station Alpha, the furthest away. Sarah got Station Beta in the center. Tom would handle Gamma, closest to the control room. They synchronized their communicators and moved. Tom reached his station and positioned himself at the manual release wheel. Through his communicator, he could hear Jack and Sarah confirming they were in position. The pressure readings were still climbing. 4 minutes left. "Here's how we do this," Tom said, his mind working through the pattern. "I'm going to count down from 5. But don't wait for 0. Jack, you turn on 2. Sarah, you turn on 1. I'll turn on 0. The signal lag through the communicators plus our different distances from the valves means we'll all actually turn at almost the same moment. How do you know the lag timing? The Matherian technician asked, listening in. I don't exactly, Tom admitted. But I can feel it. Jack is furthest, so he goes first. Trust me. Trusting you, kid, Jack's voice came through. Tom watched the pressure gauge. 3 minutes. He took a breath and started the count. 5. His hand settled on the wheel. The metal was warm, almost hot. 4. He could hear the pipes groaning louder now. The whole station seemed to be holding its breath. 3. In his mind, Tom saw the pattern. The lag in the signal, the distance each person would need to turn their wheel, the way the pressure would flow once the valves opened. It was like the ball-catching exercise or the light maze or the fight with cricks. He just needed to know where everything would be. 2. Jack would be turning now, his strong arms spinning the wheel at Station Alpha. 1. Sarah's valve would be opening, redirecting her share of the pressure. 0. Tom threw his own wheel. The metal squealed as the valve opened. For one terrible second, nothing happened. Then he heard it. A deep rushing sound as pressure began venting through the emergency system. The groaning in the pipes started to decrease. The Matherian technician was staring at his instruments. Pressure is dropping. It's working. By all calculations, it should not have worked with manual coordination, but it's working. Tom sagged against the wall, suddenly exhausted. Through his communicator, he heard Sarah laugh with relief and Jack let out a long breath. Everyone out, Commander Schul's voice came through the station-wide system. Reactor Section 7 is stabilizing. Engineering teams begin standard safety protocols. Tom made his way back to the control room where other engineers were already flooding in to handle the repairs. The Matherian technician approached him. How did you know the exact timing? The margin for error was less than 0.3 seconds. I just knew, Tom said. It was the only answer he had. An hour later, Tom found himself back in Schul's office. The commander was not alone. Dr. Prahl was there, along with Crix and several Galactic Council representatives Tom recognized from the exhibition match. 347 people, Schul said without preamble. That is how many were in the sections that would have been compromised if those pressure lines had blown. You saved them all. Jack and Sarah helped, Tom said. I just coordinated. You did more than coordinate, one of the council representatives said. She was a tall being with features Tom could not quite identify. You predicted the precise timing needed despite multiple variables. You saw a pattern where our best technicians saw only chaos. Crick stepped forward. I have been discussing the exhibition match results with my superiors in the Vraxian military. We have also been studying the footage of today's emergency. The conclusion is clear. Human predictive capabilities represent a significant tactical advantage that we have not properly utilized in the defense force. Tom sat down heavily. What are you saying? We are saying, Schul replied, that the offer I made you earlier is no longer just an offer. The Council needs humans trained in tactical prediction. Not as soldiers necessarily, but as coordinators, strategists, advisors. People who can see patterns and predict outcomes in complex situations. And you want me to help train them, Tom said. We want you to teach us how to recognize and develop human predictive thinking, so that we can integrate it properly into our forces. Schul slid the document across the desk again. You would remain a civilian. You would not be required to enter combat. You would simply teach and demonstrate. The pay would be considerably better than maintenance work. Tom looked at the document. Then he looked at the faces around him. They were serious, hopeful even. Today he had saved lives not by being stronger or faster or smarter than anyone else, but by seeing a pattern and trusting his instincts. I have conditions, Tom said finally. Name them. I want Jack Miller as co-instructor. I want to continue some maintenance work on the side just to stay sharp. And I want 1 day a week where nobody bothers me about tactical anything. I need time to think. Schul's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. Acceptable. All of it. Tom picked up the stylus and signed the document. As he did, he thought about the knife he had caught without thinking, the match with Crix, the emergency today. Maybe Jack had been right. Maybe this life was better than the quiet one, even if it was more complicated. When do I start? Tom asked. Tomorrow, Dr. Prahl chimed. We already have a class of mixed-species personnel waiting. They are very eager to learn. Of course they were. Tom stood up and shook hands with everyone in the room, using the various gestures appropriate to each species. As he left the office, he passed by a viewport showing the stars beyond the station. Somewhere out there, the Defense Force was preparing for threats unknown. And now, apparently, humans would be part of that preparation in a way nobody had expected. Not as warriors or soldiers, but as the people who could see what was coming before it arrived. Tom thought about his old life in London, catching boxes in the market, playing games in the streets. All of it had been training, just like Jack said. Training for a future he never could have predicted. The irony was not lost on him. The human who could predict everything had never seen his own future coming. He smiled and headed toward his quarters. Tomorrow would be interesting. But then again, these days, everything was interesting. And somewhere in the station, Commander Shell added a note to Tom's file. Human predictive capabilities confirmed. Recommend expanded integration program. The Defense Force needs more people who can catch falling knives.